It's always in the news. Cybercriminals attacking great organizations, wreaking havoc on the trust of their brand.
We socialize cybersecurity for you to raise awareness.
Interviewing leaders who built and protect great brands.
We help talented people enter into this incredible field, and we share our research at blockbuster true cybercrime stories.
This is Cybercrime Junkies. And now the show. All right. Well, welcome everybody to Cybercrime Junkies. I'm your host, David Morrow. In the studio today is the illustrious, always positive co-host, my yin to my yang, Mark Mosier, the Mark Mosier, like the Ohio State. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing wonderful today, David. I'm really excited. This is going to be a great episode. This will be a lot of fun.
Well, we are definitely here with somebody much better than us about cybersecurity, and we're looking to learn a great deal from him. So we are joined today by Josh Mason. Josh is a decades-long military veteran, served in the U.S. Air Force, is a pilot and the cyber warfare officer as well. He's created the New Village. He's going to explain that along with several other philanthropy ventures that we're going to cover. He's a cybersecurity practitioner and expert. Josh, welcome, man. Really glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, very cool. So introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen. Kind of tell us what your current role is, what you're doing, some of your projects, and then let's back into kind of how you got here, and then we'll get into some of the other topics.
Yeah, definitely. So my current role is with Nuvik Solutions. We're a small boutique firm. We focus in advanced assessments and risk management, and have a training arm that goes alongside that. When you do a red team engagement or a pen test or an audit and come across things that need to be fixed, we have the ability to help mitigate and remediate those things. Sometimes that falls into training developers on threat modeling, which is one of the ongoing programs we have right now.
Okay.
And but I'm a senior instructor here to help build out some other capabilities for other customers that we have coming on board. And my background, I've been a sales engineer at SimSpace, building out large ranges. I've been an instructor for INE and eLearn Security, built out pen tester student and the eLearn Security Junior Pen Tester version 2 exam. And then I was an instructor at the Defense Cybercrime Center's Cyber Training Academy, training up a bunch of cyber troops for the Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, and the Air Force.
So you're still learning. Like you have no idea really what you're doing yet. So that's great. No, dude, that's incredible. So let's boil it down a little bit. So when you're talking about penetration testing and things like that, you're talking about the ethical acting, right? The engagement by an organization to kind of break in, like hack them, right? And then explain to them their vulnerabilities so that they can fix them, right?
Exactly. For example, right before this call, I was working as an engagement manager with our pen testers, our ethical hackers, and our client has a website, a web app that they just spun up. They just moved development in-house, and they wanted us to test and see, okay, is there ways that we could take over the website, spoof things, get access that we're not supposed to have? Can we buy things for free? Can we steal other people's items? Can we get information on other sales that have happened? So, in order so that they can fix them,
right?
So they don't get hit by a criminal.
Important line of delineation, right? Because idle misnomer that hackers is just a general term, but everybody that's a hacker is bad. And that's not true, right,
No,
Josh?
Not at all.
I look very much up to you, Josh. And David and I, we work with hackers. We have a team of hackers.
Yeah, we
But
have a whole we're so we work for an MSSP, which is also
Hmm.
an MSP, different arms. And one of our recent acquisitions was this depth security team out of Kansas City, and they're
Hmm.
phenomenal. They're involved in like B sides, RSA, a lot of the
yep,
DEF CON, some of the villages there,
Oh yeah.
and they have a whole team of ethical hackers, and we've been getting to know them ever since the acquisition. It's just it's like our coolest offering. Like to us, it's the coolest thing that we do, and part of what we do, Mark and I, is even educate the other people because it's a big
Hmm.
company. It's a North America, it's a global company. It's
Yeah.
Konica Minolta, right? And so what we're doing is explaining to them, did you guys know like that we do this now? And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't even know. It's really fun, like just to
Mhm.
talk about business owners and just to kind of educate people. Are you when so okay? Before I even get to that,
Yeah. Yeah.
one of my questions was when you're talking to business owners, let's say it's a
Hmm.
manufacturing company or healthcare or law, whatever vertical it is, do they understand the need for penetration testing and ethical hacking,
great question.
or just like it's compliance because there's some field they have to check a box? Like,
It's
what's been your experience?
Yeah. So it's been a mixed bag. There's
Mhm.
sometimes a little bit of education that's required, a little bit of mentoring to folks.
Yeah,
I lean heavily, and so do others on our team who are in the risk management side. I lean heavily on our business training and education. Several of us have MBAs and
Mhm.
have looked at things from that side more so than the cyber side. And you start talking to people about risk, taking opportunities, knowing that there might be a downside, that your product might fail, that your physical location could be breached, depending on where your offices are located. They probably have locks and cameras and lights and maybe a security guard. So people inherently know that security exists and they want to protect things. Sometimes they just don't know how or what they need. For example, do I need an armed guard here with me right now
Right.
at my house? I don't think so. That's a risk decision that we've made. When you start translating that and teaching that to folks, then they go, oh, okay, well, similarly, we don't have a guard at the building, but we do have a direct, like, the person at the front desk does have a button or can quickly call 911 if we need to. And you're like, okay. So you've put the thought into that. What about with your networks? What about with your apps? What about with your email? Like, how much are you willing to protect? Um, and how much are you willing to spend both time and energy to actually protect those things?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like a snapshot in time, right? It's an ability to see exactly where you're vulnerable and how an
Hmm.
adversary, right? And I think Mark's point earlier was excellent, and that is the public's perception. A lot of it has to do with the media and movies and television shows and things like that, where they create this image of hackers, a kid in a
Hmm.
hoodie, his mom's basement drinking Red Bull all night, cracking
Yeah.
code. And it's like, that's not what cybercrime is today. Right. And
No.
so, but by being able to, because they're really threat actors. And
Yeah.
so by being able to identify how a threat actor would get into your
Hmm.
organization today, the specific tactics, right?
Yeah.
Sure, there's phishing, and that's a massive avenue, right?
Hmm.
But there's a different types of that, right? Like
Oh yeah.
once they click, what happens, right? And where do you get access? Can you move laterally? Can you move vertically? How do you do that? And that's where the skill set comes in.
Oh yeah.
So I got to know, like,
Mhm.
what drove you to this? Like, was it? I mean, first of all, you had phenomenal experience in the military. So
Mhm.
let's walk through this. But what is there an event you can point to, or some curiosity you had that led you into this field?
Um, yes and no. So, my dad was a network engineer and a system
Mm.
administrator and ran a consulting company in the 90s and was doing a lot of just trying to get people to understand that you can have connect computers that connect to other buildings, let alone the greater internet.
Well, in
And
the '90s, that was like people were like, "What? You got to be
oh yeah,
kidding me!" Like it was crazy.
And I remember him consulting with a bunch of companies to help them understand if they were going to be Y2K compliant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I didn't think about it at the time. It was just my dad was going to work. He did a thing. And we had computers at home. And um, again, didn't think too much about it. I found out about planes, that I could go be a pilot. That sounded really interesting to a 14, 15-year-old Josh Mason. And I dove in
Oh yeah.
headlong. Got there, flew planes for a while. Some family stuff changed. The Air Force, um, my flying ended in the Air Force for some reasons, and they swapped me over to cyber warfare. I owed some time
Um,
still. As an officer in the U.S. military, you have contracts. They call them active duty service commitments. It's one of those things of you can do anything you want as long as it's what we tell you, where we tell you.
right.
And you can like decide not to do that, but then they send people to pick you up and take you back to work, and or you can go to summer camp in Kansas until your time is up, and that's the less fun way. So I said, yes. What are we going to do? And they said cyber warfare, and I was like, okay, let's do it. Um,
That sounds
ran,
really cool. If you're
yeah,
going to tell me what to do and I get to go do cyber warfare, that is actually kind of a really cool idea.
I think so. Initially, I was like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
It ended up being running enterprise IT and a little bit of the security side of that down at a Hurlburt Field in Florida for Air Force Special Operations Command. It's their headquarters and the largest base that Air Force Special Operations Command has. Um, and it was really neat. Got to train up some people to deploy to special locations, essentially be their own everything from help desk up to CISO for
Really?
bases of like 5 people in a plane or 100 people bases where we send special operations operators and to launch a plane, you need to have weather, you need to file flight plans, you need to know have maps and whatnot. So you need internet connectivity. Well, pilots
Hmm.
don't know how to do that when you get to
Right.
locations. So we send a comm troop along. Where do those comm troopers come from? They come from the special operations base. So those guys were mine. I didn't train them hands on, but my folks did the training. They figured out the deployments. They set all of that up so that we could send someone who their normal day job was like setting up speakers for the base commander to like talk to the community, or maybe they handled the radios so that all the cops on base could talk properly, or they handled help desk. Well, we're going to deploy them to do all of the jobs. So
Hmm.
they would come, put them through a special program, and I managed the training and the strategy for the training for that. Um, and it was neat. It was fun. Also worked the QA, a lot of the
What's the
compliance,
QA? Yeah. What's the QA?
quality assurance.
Okay.
So we had a lot of switches and routers on base,
Hmm.
ups, the uninterrupted power systems, so
Hmm.
that if the base loses power, the servers will shut down slowly, naturally, or if there's a change in power or a
Yep.
surge, like everything doesn't all of a sudden break, but those have to be inspected. Are the inspections being done properly? We set up a quality assurance program to make sure inspections were happening, that they were happening properly, that there was follow up, and that actually reached into every part of IT, including training and were people that were getting trained and then moving up to the next level. Were they actually qualified for that job? So a little bit of testing in there that our QA folks had to include as well. It was a fun experience. Gave me a lot
So
of insights that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Oh yeah. And so did your dad, let me back up a second. So your dad
Mhm.
was involved in network operations back, preparing organizations for Y2K. That's when
Mhm.
I got involved actually back then. That's how old I am. And when I was I'm curious, like, did you ever have a sense of what the feeling was like after the clock struck midnight and like nothing happened? Like, was he kind of like, wow, that is kind of odd. Like, there's like nothing happened. Like, there
Yes
was
and no.
like,
Here's the
okay,
fun thing. Like I understood it. He was able to explain it to me. He was like,
yeah,
"So we've got 2 digits, and then it everything is being used with 2 digits. All of a sudden, those are going to reset to 0 0, and no one knows what the code is going
exactly.
to do when that happens." I was like, oh, "Okay." Now I understand even more intricacy of like, okay, how do we change all of this 00
Right.
variables across all the programs to uh, XXXX variables? That sounds huge. Understanding it now, I think about like Log4j, and if you had to go in
Right.
and do the individual patching everywhere, that's essentially what they had to do. It wasn't a
Right.
dependency that you could just patch and
It's a
everything
good
work.
analogy. Yeah, that's a
It's a
good
lot.
analogy to it. Yeah,
At the
absolutely.
time, no. He was like, "This is gonna blow over. Some software is gonna break, and they'll just fix it."
Yeah.
Fortunately, things aren't gonna like light on fire. Bombs aren't gonna launch without control. Uh, it'll be a pain in the butt for a lot of people,
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
was. But it's one of those things I haven't connected that until you asked now. But it's a lot like our incidents nowadays. It seems huge. It's like the
Mhm.
building is on fire. You're like, okay, well, you can have an incident. Incidents are going to happen. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
Like,
And not
if you,
not all incidents are created equal, right? I think that's
right?
one of the things that one of the first kind of epiphany moments is I began studying cybersecurity, and I'm like, everyone's like, "Oh, they got breached. Oh, and they
Mhm.
got breached." I'm like they're the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
it hasn't. You know what I mean? Like a compromise is not a compromise. Like one organization being compromised and somebody else being compromised, they're completely different. The access,
Oh
the
yeah.
data, the exfiltration, the damage, the PR, like all of it is they're all variables. They're all like dials. And
Yep.
so there's so much that you need to be prepared on. That's why I'm a firm believer in like operational resilience. So like people
Yes.
go and they create these policies like we're all set. We are secure. I've got a policy for this. I'm like, have you walked through it? Like have you done
Hmm.
a tabletop exercise? Do you have incident response like discussions? Do you guys
Yep.
like do war games? It's basically from the
Hmm.
military, right? Like have you
Oh yeah.
done a war game? Like have you actually walked through boom and what happens right after boom, right after that breach happens?
Yeah.
Who does what? It's like, kids do it in school, right? They
Hmm.
have fire drills, right?
Fire
Otherwise,
drills, tornado drills. I mean,
yeah,
that's
if
the whole
we
purpose, right? So we're not running
Yeah.
into each other in the middle of an emergency. That's the
Yep.
whole purpose.
yeah, if we didn't, we'd have kids just like running into
Oh
each
yeah.
other all over down the hallways, right? No one would know. Like it's why we have exit signs right by the door.
Yep.
But so many organizations don't even think like that.
No.
Um,
Um,
it,
and there's a bit that I got to give them some grace. There's some areas. I grew up in Southern California, and then I spent
mhm,
a lot of time in Little Rock, Arkansas.
mhm.
And David, I know, or Mark, you're in the Midwest, so
So am
you're
I.
probably
Yeah.
familiar. Tornadoes
Oh
Yep.
yeah,
being
it's a
like
real
a
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Uh, my this yeah, my first night in Little Rock when I moved there was a tornado that hit, and it actually like picked up one of these C-130s and moved it like 50 feet,
Wow.
which
Mhm.
is like basically moving it one plane over.
But growing up in
Uh,
Southern California, you guys don't
I
worry
was
about
used to
tornadoes, right?
earthquakes.
Your
Right.
Like
earthquakes, exactly.
I did earthquake drills. Like I knew what to
Yeah,
happen if there was an earthquake. Like get
right.
under a desk, get in a door jam, like where the safe door that's not gonna kill you. But like a tornado, I was like, I'm glad they came over the loudspeakers and were like, okay, like go in place, and there were signs on the doors, and like they were prepared because I was on a base, and so like
Mhm.
preparation is like it's not a new thing for the military, but even just people who live nearby have an idea. It gets taught in schools, it's on the news, it's uh businesses will put up signs of, hey, this is a shelter room, there's no
Yep.
Yeah.
windows here, that sort of thing. Those things because it's part of the culture, it's part of the norm, but it's not everywhere. If you
Yeah.
go into a McDonald's, it doesn't necessarily say like, "Hey, if there's a tornado, come over here," right?
Mhm. What
Similarly, yeah,
yeah.
I was thinking
No.
similarly. There's some organizations that are going to be more on top of things for cybersecurity, and others that
Right.
don't think about it. They're worrying about other problems.
So because of their experience in life or their vertical or whatever,
Hmm.
it hasn't been top of mind. But it
Exactly.
seems like today, from major news to the government to private industry to vendors to every engagement.
Mhm.
It seems to be a topic of discussion across the board now, more so
Yeah.
than it was even just a few years ago.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the thing to cyber professionals, this all seems obvious. Just
Hmm.
like I've talked to firefighters and they're like, "Yeah, doesn't everyone know where like the fire extinguishers are and like where their
Right.
nearest stairs is and where they're supposed to go in case of a fire?" It's
The
like,
answer is
"No.
no.
No,
Right.
most of us
No.
don't. We don't have
Right.
to."
Exactly.
And in the same way, that's how people act with cybersecurity. Unless you think about it, unless someone told you, you don't know, which is why cybersecurity awareness, I know you all are active in that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
is really helpful.
Yeah. Well, because it's so obvious to us, and to us, I almost feel like, is it not complex enough? Like, are we doing
Is this
like
is
we're
this remedial? Is
every
this not enough?
we talk to people and they're like, we know not to click on links. We know what a phishing email does. We're like,
But
really?
yet
Like,
85%
really?
of all breaches are human error.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yet everybody's still doing it. Or we've got multi-factor authentication, but do you? Or do you
Mhm.
fall for it? Like, or if it just gets annoying, you're still going to approve it? Like, you're not going to
Yeah.
verify? Like, it's human behavior. It's like a huge social experiment. Everybody, just wanted to mention Cybercrime Junkies Prime. We now have a subscription available through our podcast, and it offers exclusive content, bonus episodes, and even pre releases of all of our standard shows.
We keep it simple. It's just the cost of one cup of coffee one time a month, and you can cancel anytime.
You can subscribe by scanning the QR code next to me in the video or by clicking the link in the show notes. If you select not to subscribe to our Prime membership, please at least consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's at Cybercrime Junkies Podcast on YouTube, and it's absolutely free. It allows us to bring great guests on the show. Thank you for your support, and now let's get back to it. To me,
Yeah.
I mean, and personally, I love the field. I think the field,
Mhm.
it draws in people like you from the military that have this sense of
Mhm.
protecting others, like to serve and protect. And I mean, I think that's what the field's about.
Well,
It
it's a higher calling, and we see this, across, and not just, we talk to a lot of people overseas, Eastern Europe, the Middle
Mhm.
East,
Mhm.
and those experts that are in our industry still have that same drive, that determination, that sense of a higher calling to help.
Yep.
So I don't think it's unique just to us. I think we see that, across the globe for people, and it's pretty cool. It really is. It's a lot of good people.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why we have so many people trying to get in. And so
Mhm.
let's talk about that. Best
Oh
ways
yeah.
to break into security, because I know you're an advocate for it. You're a lecturer, teacher, mentor to many,
Mhm.
and we're really grateful for some of the things that you're doing. First, from a global perspective, or
Mhm.
not even global perspective, but at least here in the U.S., what are you seeing in terms of, there have been a lot of layoffs we've seen
Mhm.
in the tech industry, but it still does seem like people and organizations are still hiring,
Yeah.
especially in cybersecurity.
So a lot of big organizations and even some smaller ones. I saw like NCC Group just let off a lot of people, including cybersecurity folks. But there are still going to be companies that are hiring.
Hmm.
I'm 1 month in with this company, and I think I took our numbers up to 10. Um, I'm the put us in the double digits when I came on board, but it's the smallest organization I've ever been part of, which is fun. It gives us a lot of power, but it's it's interesting because companies are still hiring. I just saw this morning, article in the Wall Street Journal, that despite a recession and some companies letting off, there are still like our unemployment numbers are still incredibly low. There are still job seekers who are getting into companies, and there are still companies hiring.
Yep.
And there's still a recruiter just shared on LinkedIn that he is still able to place people into companies. Like His
Yep.
business hasn't slowed down. But the competition is harsh.
Right.
One of my other friends posted a job opening at their company, and within the first 12 minutes, they had 124 applicants.
Oh, I saw that. I actually
Yeah,
saw that post. Wasn't
yeah,
that
Mick
just on
Merritt.
it was just
Yeah,
Mick Merritt just posted that, and it was just
hmm
on LinkedIn, I think yesterday. I saw that. I was
yeah.
shocked. I was like,
Um,
just within the first hour or so, there was like over 100 applicants. So,
I put out a job post for New Village to get some interns, and it was
mhm.
completely unpaid internship. I was very straightforward. This is like it's volunteer work. It's
Great
my
thing for the
hobby that
resume,
like we're
great
doing.
thing for your own experience though, right?
Yeah,
It's
good stuff, but like
good
this is
stuff.
like there is no money here.
Right,
I am losing money on this venture, and that's fine by me. If you want
right.
to be part of it, know that going in, I within like 5 minutes, I had maxed out whatever free applications I could get on LinkedIn,
Wow. Holy cow.
and so then it disappeared. It was kind of crazy. Um, yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
for a free thing, like no one's getting paid. There was still
And
a lot of
there's
people
still a
interested.
lot of competition. So,
Yeah.
we
Hey,
are
Josh, let me ask you this.
yeah,
Had a great question about certs. Do certs? There we go. Do certs make you stand out from the crowd as you go through these resumes and you look at people and you're out there and you're
Mhm.
involved in this? What do you see? What's your take on that?
Certs have a couple things. So, if two people are completely equal, everything else being equal, having a cert versus not having a cert is going to make you stand out more. Yes, right? I mean that makes sense, right? All else being equal. I don't believe in things being equal. I was in the U.S. Air Force. We don't do things equally. We do things overpoweringly and dominant. One of the core concepts in the Air Force is air dominance. It's not
right.
like air good, it's air
It's not
dominance.
air equality. Like, we want everybody to have a plane. We don't wanna share the airspace. No, we want
Yeah,
you have to dominate the airspace so that the land troops and the
period.
infantry
Like,
can do it, right? I
yeah,
mean, that's
and
kinda what it's all about.
it comes down from the U.S. security strategy. Dominance is what we do. We don't just do okay. We don't just do good. We don't just do pretty great. We do dominate. We do
Yeah,
Mhm.
the best. We
mediocrity is
do
not an
stand
option.
out. No,
So
it's not
so in
acceptable either. So
the type of
when you take
certs will
that,
depend on where they wanna land, right? If you're interested in
yeah,
cybersecurity, you wanna be on blue team, you're not necessarily gonna have the certs dealing with pen testing. Like, it's still good to have, but that'll be more SOC related, things like that, right?
it can. So it can be very valuable to understand. If you understand pen testing, you understand how
Mhm.
people get in. You understand, okay, what is vulnerable? You understand what does C2 communication look like on a network from the operator side. That way, then when you get into the SOC and you start seeing alerts or you have an idea that someone's in, well, what do they need? They need some sort of connection. They need to be communicating back and forth. They probably found a vulnerability in what our web app,
Right.
in someone's accounts. So you start thinking about like if if you go through pen testing training, then you think about all the things that your adversary is actually doing in your network. And if you know what they're doing, then you know how to block them. It's uh, football players.
Right.
Um, if you're a safety, then you need to understand what a wide receiver is thinking, right?
Mhm.
So like you are maybe you have someone like throw you some passes while you go like long and try to think like, oh, okay, so if I was going to catch this, I was going to do this. So if I'm going to stop that guy from catching it, what I want to do is X. So it is valuable, but it's how you apply it that
Yeah,
matters.
absolutely.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think
Um,
some of them, you've got to have that foundational level of knowledge and skill set, right? Like you're going into cybersecurity, like Security Plus, or something. You've got to have some type of foundational understanding, I think, depending on what specialty you may want to go into.
yeah, and the the thing is, I don't think you need necessarily the cert itself. You need the knowledge,
Right.
and if you can project that you have the knowledge, a cert will probably do that to an extent. It shows that at one point in time you had enough knowledge that someone said you know this.
Yeah.
Now, from the time that you took the test until now, no idea. I don't know
Right.
what you kept, how you grew, what you have on top of that. So I'm
What
a
are the
big
roles of
proponent.
no, I'm
Uh,
sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah,
interrupt
yeah,
you, but along those lines, what about home labs, right?
yeah.
Like, especially if you're gonna do penetration testing and things
Mhm,
like that, being able to demonstrate, yeah, I studied for this cert, whether you even passed it
mhm.
or obtain it, but the fact I've got a home lab, I'm able to, do XYZ with the flipper. I'm able to do XYZ
Yeah,
with this radio frequency,
yeah.
this pineapple, whatever it is, like being able to
Mhm,
show that and say, well, in my off hours, here's what I do. I practice,
mhm.
right? And
And
I
then
think that's really key.
that home lab can go for all aspects. It doesn't just need to be for pen testers. If
Mhm.
you are interested in digital forensics, like, well, do you have a Raspberry Pi that you could set up with TCP dump,
Exactly.
and then
Yeah.
pop that into Wireshark, and then look and see, like, oh, okay, my kid was watching this show on Disney earlier. These are what the packets looked like when they went across. They were encrypted in this way. Okay, can I capture that SSL token and then deobfuscate that and see or decrypt it, because it's on your network, so you're allowed to do that. And then try to figure out, okay, so what all are these packets doing? Get an idea. You could even throw some things at yourself on your network. Go to like an AWS or a Linode and throw some attacks at your own network and see, okay, well, what does that look like as a SOC operator? You can run those things, or you could do in a VM something safe. Actually run some malware and see what that does. That's
Yeah.
those samples are out there. There are PCAPs available that have malware in them, and people can pull them into Wireshark. Do it in a VM because it is live malware. Uh, and if you were to rebuild it and then run it,
Yeah, you
that
don't
you have
wanna,
to
Don't
like,
want to be
obviously
let
doing
it
it for a
loose.
while, really.
yeah, you want
Yeah.
to be able to like
Yeah.
turn off the VM, make a new one, fresh day. Your stuff isn't messed up. Um,
Well, one
but
one of
even
the
policy,
listeners, yeah.
security engineers, yeah, they can all do those things on their own network.
Yeah.
Sorry.
See, that's really key.
Oh,
The
hey, Brian.
value there of being able to demonstrate it. Brian Godfrey is one of the listeners and said he became a SOC analyst with only self-directed study, taking
Mhm.
only free materials. I've now been asked to get A plus, security plus, net plus, only net plus to get now. So
Yep.
that's like you do a lot with free and that's phenomenal.
Mhm.
First of all, Brian, congrats. Great example, right? And Josh, walk us through kind of your new village and some of the approaches. Like
Yeah.
you post often, you're active in the community, and you talk a lot about a lot of the free or low cost self trainings that are out there. Can you walk us
Yeah.
through that?
Definitely. So I'll throw this out there. I see Brian Godfrey was one of my interns at Cyber Supply Drop, and
Ah,
he is now a SOC engineer for Black Hills Information Security. Sorry, not to dox you, but I know you share that stuff on LinkedIn, Brian. And then Edgar Gutierrez is another one of my new interns for New Village, doing great stuff.
that's great.
And able to bring people in to share what are they studying, like what do they know, how can they help people, and then also share career tips, from how to find jobs to how to set up a resume to how to prep for interviews, the full spectrum. I started the idea of New Village. My mentor Neil Bridges, he'd gone to DEF CON in 21, and on his stream was talking about how he didn't really feel like it was very valuable to most people. He went out of obligation. It's kind of expected out of his role. And he was happy to see people in person,
Mhm.
especially post pan or, near the end of the worst parts of the pandemic.
Right.
Um,
It was good just to be in person.
exactly. And, but for someone who is new, like what would you get out of going to a DEF CON or a Black Hat? And for us, there's connections, there's networking, there's business opportunities there. For someone who has no idea what they're getting themselves into, it's neat, it's cool, it's exciting, but their career might not necessarily be boosted from that. So I came up with the idea of New Village to be basically a career village, to do networking seminars, to introduce new people to CISOs, kind of have a I had one idea of a speed dating with a CISO. So someone who's brand new could sit
Oh, that's
down
great.
across from a veteran who is running a security organization and ask questions about like, who would you hire? What are you hiring? What does that look like? Have some talks from a few different influential people to introduce different roles. Have a SOC engineer, have a security engineer, have um, a sales engineer get in and explain what are the differences. How do people get into these jobs? What does the pay look like? Um, what's the demand for the positions?
What
So
do you need to know? Like, because even from the
exactly.
sales, like I
Hmm.
manage a whole team at
Hmm.
kind of coming all covered. We've got a whole team of like 17 states, and I'm just one of about 4 or 5 of us across the country. But our team has to go through a lot of training. Like you have to
Yeah.
understand because we can't just talk hyperbole. We can't just talk generally. You can't overpromise, right? The
Yeah.
solutions are good solutions. They help organizations, but they do a specific thing and just
Yeah.
be very precise about it. Talk about the benefits, like talk about the impact it'll have, but don't overpromise. So I think no matter what, whether it's marketing, sales, whatever, we
Hmm.
have to and you, as you're aware, like there's a whole group. Like if you overpromise at one of these conventions, right?
Oh
They're
yeah.
gonna have your head. Like
The
they're gonna be
or
like, what did I just read? Like something
yeah,
is you solved cybersecurity? No,
you'll
you
go
didn't.
viral on Twitter for all the wrong
Absolutely.
reasons.
Yeah.
Hey, Cybercrime Junkies. We've got an upcoming episode that is an absolute must see, must listen. These are some incredible guests that are participating on a global scale in making cybersecurity more resilient against today's cyber criminals. Tell them about it, David.
Yeah, we have Carlo Breda, founder of the Silicon Valley think tank. He's a special constituent to the G20 and the World Economic Forum, as well as he's going to share with us the initiative they have working with the US government and other governments around the world to create a framework of public private coalition and partnerships to help boost critical infrastructure and cybersecurity across the board. Really excited about this episode, so check it out. It's coming soon. Oh,
Yeah, much better.
all right, cool.
For
That's
Protect
not
all
what you
normal
critical
people.
want.
a field
Well,
in
David,
which
you
Absolutely.
know,
it's
we've talked, and Josh, this
easy
may
to get on
ring
the
true
wrong
to
side of this
you.
community. Yeah.
We've talked with a lot of CISOs all
Hmm.
across the country at all different levels, enterprise, business, and they all reference the fact that there's also a non-technical piece to being in
Hmm.
cybersecurity and to being in GRC and things like that, because you've got to be able to relate a business case or a non-technical topic or message to the
Oh
board
yeah.
or to the rest of the C-suite or whatever that may be. So I think there's also a messaging and business aspect of being in cybersecurity. So you can relate that. Why do we need this new tool? Why do we need to upgrade our SIM platform to
Hmm.
QRadar? So you've got to be able to do that. So I think there's a non-technical piece to it. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, all day. That really is my role at Nuvik. Is as an engagement manager. It's I think of the guy from Office Space. I talk to
Love
the
that
customers
movie.
so the engineers don't have to. But it's more than that. It's um, I'm good at talking to people. Um,
It's exactly my
no,
role. It's exactly my
the
role. Like
exactly
our
business
role is to go talk
development
to
and
customers so we can
yeah,
keep the very smart people where they belong, right?
right. I don't want my pen testers necessarily talking to CEOs.
Right.
That they're going to talk one way, they're going to talk another way. That translation does actually need to happen.
Mhm.
And it's more important than we think. I would love it if I could teach the CEOs the cybersecurity, and I would love to teach the business and value propositions and business risk to the pen testers. But truth be told, people have specialties for a reason.
Right.
Being a jack of all trades is useful for all of us, but at a certain point, there are going to be specialties, and people who can bridge those and bring value overall are critical. And that's a lot of us. We have that capability.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
and in terms of when one of the listeners was asking us to talk about GRC and things like that, and
mhm.
Jerry Auger has got a phenomenal GRC program, and I know he's a
Oh
friend
yeah.
of yours. He's a friend of ours as well. We've had him on our show, and it's really a phenomenal masterclass. That whole
Hmm.
GRC he really kind of breaks it down very, very practically.
Yeah. And he just updated it and added some more and
Hmm.
improved a lab. So there's a lot that Jerry's putting into it. There's Policy Wizard, another one
Hmm.
of our colleagues out there, just put together a course.
It's Policy Wizard.
Yeah, I think so. I just saw it
Okay.
yesterday.
Who put that out? Where can people find
I
that?
don't
We'll
remember.
have links for everybody, by
I'll
the way.
find it. I'll
Yeah,
share it. I'll link you all.
yeah, great. We'll have links in the show notes and in the description on our YouTube channel,
Mhm.
as well as our podcast to Noob Village, all of your supply drop, all of that stuff. So,
Awesome.
walk us through what you did with the supply drop. What was that?
Yeah.
What drove that? Why did you start that?
So, I was putting together a capture the flag, a hackathon for With You With Me. They're a veteran and underserved uh, community organization out of Australia, trying to help people get jobs in demanding career fields, or in on demand, or
Hmm.
career fields that are trying to hire, because
Right.
there's a lot of people with skills, but if they're going into the wrong careers, it's difficult. So With You With Me is doing some great stuff and added cybersecurity to the courses and job training that they have available. I was helping them to get some things going with a hackathon, and in there, I realized there was an opportunity to have a giveaway. Someone had given me one of my colleagues that I mentor their high school cyber club. He had a CYSA plus
Oh,
voucher,
yeah.
but he's a robotics and cybersecurity instructor at a high school. So like he doesn't need CYSA. He didn't
Right.
care about it. He doesn't have the time to
Right.
even study and take the test. So he's like, "Do you want the voucher?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll take that. That could be valuable for me to go through the process, study for it, take the exam. I'm sure that'll help me." And then I realized I don't care about having that. I've just gotten CISP. I am not going to be an analyst. This is not valuable to me. But
Right.
there are other people who this is valuable to. So I changed up my capture the flag a little bit. It's a room on Try Hack Me. It's not good enough to be public. It is not a good room. It's fun, it's challenging, but it's very low quality. Um, I threw it together and it works, but yeah, it's not very pretty. It's My YouTube channel has like the way to get to it. But in there, I put an Easter egg, and I told people, "Hey, you find this Easter egg, you contact, you follow the directions in the Easter egg, and I'm going to give you this voucher." And I put it out on LinkedIn, and people were like, "Oh, that's awesome!" Someone finally found it, emailed me to the email that was in the Easter egg, and gave them the voucher. Other people saw that on LinkedIn and were like, "Hey, here's some more vouchers." And I went, "Oh,
Oh, now is a
okay.
thing.
What do I
Yeah.
do with this?"
And now you're in
Uh,
charge of brokering all this.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I could do something with this, and started making some posts and some giveaways. Like, hey, if you post something this week and use this hashtag on Sunday, I'll pick someone and you can have a Try Hack Me, a month of free Try Hack Me. And then people were like, hey, I want to send you like $100. I was like, that's cool.
But
No, I don't want people sending money to Josh
now you're the
Mason. I'm
curator.
not,
Yeah, now
yeah,
you're the
right.
manager of other people's money, and
Because
so
I
you're
got to be
like,
a
"Okay, what
steward
do
of
I do?"
that and custodian of it. And I was like,
Yeah,
this is gonna. I feel like this could blow up into my face.
yeah.
But more people wanted to. I had like several people wanting to do this, and I was like, okay, hey, like community, like how can I do this? And someone's like, you could do a nonprofit. I was like, yeah, it's a lot of work. Someone's like, well,
Yeah.
you could be fiscally sponsored by another nonprofit. I was like, what is that? So
Right.
um New Village and Cyber Supply Drop are both fiscally sponsored by Hack Club Bank. It's a
Ah.
nonprofit that started out of um, Hack Club has their own entities, their own mission, but they also have this bank side where they will fiscally sponsor organizations that are interested in cybersecurity. And it could be anything from like a high school cyber club that wants to run a capture the flag or a conference, and they don't know where to keep the money or how to hold the money or how to become a nonprofit and like make things tax deductible and all that.
Mhm.
So they put it all together. They had their lawyers do all the legwork, and we applied. We talked with them. We figured out like, does our mission fit within their mission? And it does. and they're great people. But what it allows is now I've got a page on Hack Club Bank. If you go to Cyber Supply Drop or New Village, the like link to donate is on those, and it'll
Mm,
take you to a Hack Club Bank website for Cyber Supply Drop or for New Village. You can donate there. They take like 7% for processing, but now I don't
mm,
have to open bank accounts. I don't have to
right.
like file taxes. I don't have
Commingle
to do any
funds. You don't
of
have to
the
put it in
lawyer
your,
stuff. Like
yeah, that's good.
it's all there and it's all
Good.
usable, and
Right.
I don't have to worry about any of the overhead. So I
That's
have a
good.
whole nonprofit without having to do any of the like stuff that I am not qualified to do properly.
Yeah,
um
that's phenomenal.
yeah, and so that's what Cyber Supply Drop and New Village grew out of, and how um it, yeah, a lot of opportunities now there to help people like Brian Godfrey or some of my other
Mhm.
interns who are also on this stream, it looks like. um
That's great. What do you have as we're coming approaching the top of the hour? What do
mhm,
you have on the horizon? You just took this new role.
mhm.
Are you going to be running some villages at some of the upcoming sessions? What's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I have not gotten confirmation, but I'm expecting to be doing some career village type stuff at Wild West Hacking Fest in
Very
October.
cool. Very
Um,
cool.
hopefully, I not trying to pressure them there, but I think they're happy to have us back. Looking at possibilities of running some of the career villages in Las Vegas during summer camp. No promises there, but having that conversation with our leadership, maybe Nuvik is going to sponsor, and I'll run some of that.
Great.
Um, and also some giveaways at different conferences. We're also, myself and Nuvik are working to build out some capture the flags at different conferences
That's
over the
great.
year. So yeah,
And
those are
what are
some,
some of the benefits of business owners and organizations or people in security or IT
mm,
leadership at government agencies or schools or things like that? Well, when they going to these conferences are really important, aren't they? Like
oh
they
yeah,
can learn, they can really see what's out there, not only for the training of their own internal security or IT staff, but also some of the threats that are out there.
yeah. In the same way that uh, is it EC3 CES is the place to go to find out what like the newest TV is going to be, and like what the
Mhm.
newest like tech in cars is going to be. Going to some of these conferences is the way to find out like, oh, what is the vulnerability? There was a point in
Right,
time where we didn't have Twitter and LinkedIn and the community that we have online. And so if you didn't go to DEF CON that year, you didn't
right,
really get to see what how that exploitate or how that exploit worked on a certain vulnerability, because
right,
it was the guy who found it and started exploiting it, giving the talk, and then afterwards getting arrested by the FBI because, you know, technically that was illegal because
right,
there wasn't HackerOne or BugCrowd and all these vulnerability disclosure programs. So technically, what they were doing did fall under, you know,
right.
the laws that are out there. So it's there's a little bit of that. You're not going to find out these things unless you go, unless you attend the
Right.
talk, unless you listen at least to the videos. Um, and then there's the community. There, it's huge. If you want to hire people in cybersecurity, there's folks at the villages who are putting in effort. That's one of those things
Absolutely.
that's going to make you stand out. There's
Yep.
the people who are at home who are just applying, or there's the people who are at the conferences learning things, trying to be part of the community, and you can have a face to face and be like, "Oh, you know things. You know the things that
Yeah.
I want in the people that work for me. So
Right.
let's make that happen."
Yeah,
And that goes both ways.
and the villages are so cool. Like to be able to see, it's one thing to read an article about how they, hack a car or how they do
Mhm.
that, but to go see it like live is
Yeah.
really impactful because then you can say, oh, they do it like, oh, you don't have to, and then you can
Mhm.
apply how that would apply to your organization. It's really, really um,
I've
a
seen
new way of educating yourself.
I've heard of CEOs finding their CISOs at conferences
Oh yeah.
by attending talks and being like, I want you to work for me and make this in
Mhm.
my organization. I know of
Yeah.
two situations where that happened. At Wild West Hacking Fest, one of my friends got a job offer,
Really?
which the company had sent several of their security engineers, and the hiring company sent several of their security engineers to learn, but also with the mission of like, if we find someone, see if we can like add someone to the team, because they had an
Yeah.
opening. They met in line for breakfast, like waiting for the restaurant to open, had breakfast together, hung out again later that evening, just hanging out at the conference. And the next day they're like, would you want to come work for us? And he's like, that would be
Mhm.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. And then that night, no kidding, would you work for us for this amount of money starting on this date with like this job description? He's like, is this a job offer? He's like, it can be, yes.
Yeah.
Like 3 days, not looking necessarily for a job, but
Right.
coming at it with a job offer. Good
No,
friend.
because you're there, you're demonstrating what you know, and they're there wanting to learn, and it's that, people want to do business with people that believe what they believe, right? And by
Mhm.
being at those conferences, you're able to identify who those people are in real person and like
Oh, yeah.
live and in person. So that's phenomenal, Josh. I mean, that's great. What are some of the biggest things that people can do, and some of the resources to break into this field? Because this like the way that your new village
Mhm.
website has a whole bunch of stuff. We will definitely
Yeah.
steer people to that. If you guys aren't aware, catching you on LinkedIn is really important. LinkedIn has got a really strong security community. What else can people
So the
be doing?
foundations. So
Hmm.
if you want to understand cybersecurity, you need to understand a little bit about computers and a little bit about networking. Um, People can learn those easily on YouTube. Professor Messer has videos for the A plus,
Hmm.
Net plus, and Security plus, and those videos are free. And it's essentially his course without the study guide, um, that normally costs hundreds of bucks, just the videos, and you can just go through those for free. There's Cyber Aces is put out by Sands. Again, it's a video series, but it starts at uh, starting up a lab and then going through the security of Windows, Linux, networking, and then some security basics to then prep for I think their GSEC, their entry level security, like Sands or GX Sec Plus, essentially. Um, that's free. Uh, Black Hills Information Security, John Strand puts out a
Hmm.
SOC core skills. Um, Brian can attest that that's a great course, and it goes through all the things that John says he wants his SOC operators to know coming in. Like
Yep.
he might know their background. They might have Net Plus. They might have Sec Plus. He's like, what I need you to know is this. And he's a
Right.
former SANS instructor. He's been around for a while, been a pen tester,
Yep.
and runs his own company. So he knows what he wants people to know. I think that's super valuable. If you run an
Absolutely.
MSSP and you're like, this is what I want my people to know, and then you make that available to others for free, it's a pay what you
Hmm.
can course live. That's huge, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah. So those are some of the quick, easy ones that I always point out to people. Try Hack Me
Absolutely.
has free stuff. Hack the Box has
Yeah.
a free academy. Starts you at nothing, introduces you to this is command line all the way up until, hey, you have hacked a machine. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. So, Josh Mason, thank you so much, man. This is really good. We will have links to all of this in the show notes and in the description on our YouTube, as well as the podcast episode. We This is not going to be the last time we talk, my friend. So, uh,
No, no,
thank
for
you.
everything you do for the cybersecurity community, and more importantly, thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Glad
it's
to help.
just, you're a remarkable story of somebody that's transitioned from the military over to the private sector and just helping people along the way. So great to get you on the show. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it,
it was
man.
great to talk with you, David. Thanks, Mark. We'll
Thanks,
have
John.
Hey, well, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening. Our next episode starts right now.
Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free, and download the podcast episodes available everywhere you get podcasts.
To support our show and get exclusive pre-release episodes and bonus content, please subscribe to Cybercrime Junkies Prime.
Link in the description and show notes. And thanks for being a cybercrime junkie.